So on today's episode of Garbage to Gold, we're going to be walking you through the process of actually stripping the gold off of the gold fingers. You want to separate the flakes of gold off the fingers because that's what we're after. As you recall from our previous videos, gold fingers are often found on expansion cards in older style PCs. They're often found on RAM. And once in a while, if you're really lucky, you'll find them on a high-end power supply. The quality of the gold fingers can vary dramatically. It often depends on the age. The newer computers got better at making that coating thinner and doing the same job. The other variable that you see is how much power or current actually has to be transmitted through the gold. So something like a power supply is going to require a bit heavier plating than something that's simply transmitting a video signal, for example. So without any further ado, let's get right to it.
So I'm just going to do a real small batch of these fingers just to show you the process and what it should look like as you strip the gold plating off of these expansion card trimmed fingers. This is a real easy way to recover gold for yourself. Anyway, this is a real small batch. I would typically do, a couple of pounds at a time, but I just want to show you the process and what it's supposed to look like so that if you go ahead and do it, then you can. This is just a 1 liter beaker, and I've got 500 mils of muriatic acid in here, just local hardware, cement cleaner type stuff. It's about 30% HCl, so all I'm going to do is add this small amount of gold fingers to this amount of acid. This is way more acid than what you actually require, but I wanted to be able to show you the process, and I want to show it to you quickly in the video. So it should immediately start to react. We'll come out every few minutes and give it a little stir. Make sure you do this type of thing in a well ventilated area away from pets and people so that they so that you know what you're doing and that they're not going to be harmed by this. See, instantly you can see already that there is a pretty good chemical reaction going on here as it begins to absorb the metal bonding that isn't the gold. So that's pretty much it. I don't use the hydrogen peroxide in this solution. I don't use a bubbler. Both of those things will speed up this process, but I'm more of a set it and forget it type person when it comes to gold recovery. So I basically put my fingers in and I let this do its job. When the acid becomes completely saturated and there's no more bubbles, I just filter it off and then either add more acid or put the bubbler in and let it bubble. But right now you can see the reaction's pretty good there. So we'll come back in 15 or 20 minutes and I'll show you what we're looking like then. All right, so we're back after about 20 minutes or so, and we've still got our concoction just bubbling away here. You can see all the bubbles forming on the gold pins. That's a sign of the bonding breaking down, and we'll start to see in about the next probably a half hour or so. You see the bottom when there is not as bubbly. That will tell you that the gold, the plating is a little thicker, and so the bonding has to be a little better. So the less they bubble initially, the thicker and the better the gold plating is on the gold finger. But we can see this is working nicely here. So we'll leave it. Again, like I say, we're about 20 minutes into the process at this point, and we'll leave it for another half hour, and then I'll come back and show you what we have then. Well, guys, here we are back again after about a half an hour from the last time. You can see our mixture is still bubbling away here, but you can see that the gold foils are starting to lift off of these lighter colored ones. You can see if I can zoom in there or not, but just that front big one there is starting to already boil up, so that's great. See how they're starting to lift some. Keep in mind that you can adjust how quickly this works based on pretty much temperature is the biggest part. If you're doing this outside and it's a cold day, then this reaction will be a lot slower. If you're inside in a controlled environment where you can adjust the heat, you don't want to boil this mixture for sure, but if the warmer is obviously better for all, for chemical reactions as far as that goes. But we're going to let this bubble and boil away here. I'm going to go in and grab a bite of supper and maybe come back in an hour, maybe two, And we should see after a couple hours, whoop, did you see that? A little gold flake just floated right to the top. Right there, see him going? Okay, interesting. So there's already some of the little gold flakes starting to release. That's great. We'll come back after supper and take a look at this, and by then, like I say, there should be some of the gold flakes should be starting to come off, and you should be able to see them in your solution. All right, guys, well, here we are after supper. It's been about 2 hours, I guess, since I last came out and checked on this. You can see it's still bubbling away here, bubbling and still reacting some, but you can also see there's all kinds of the gold foils and the gold fingers are lying on the bottom of the beaker. I'm going to give it a little stir here and see if I can't show you this at the same time. Not sure if I can do it both, but I'll give it a go. Right, so we stir this up and you can see the gold. See all the gold in there? Right. Okay, so that's good. And this little hot plate that I have it on, it's just it's not really a hot plate. It's more for just keeping coffee warm. The only reason I put that on here is because I'm doing this outside, just so it's safe. And I wanted to keep the mixture warm, just because it's the middle of winter where I am. So that's what this hot plate is. So just helps with to keep the mixture bubbling away here. Now you can see, I'll try to do a close-up again, that floating around there and those things on the bottom that are all separated, that's the gold, that's what you want. That is pure gold, pretty close to pure gold anyway, and that's what we're trying to get. Now you can still see there's some over there, those are some, that's a little more heavily plated, so that'll take us a little longer. So I'm gonna let this bubble away here and maybe check it again in 4 or 5 hours. This is, like I said before, kind of a set it and forget it type deal. You don't have to really watch this too much. We're just watching it closely so I can show you the steps in the process. But it's nice to see that gold coming off there. I'm a gold guy and I like it. So again, I'll come back in 4 or 5 hours and we'll check this out and see where we're at. All right, folks, well, here we are about 4 hours later, back checking on our mixture. You can see now that there's actually some gold floating in the mixture, and as it bubbles, you see the gold's actually flaking up and coming up off but it is still bubbling away, so we're gonna leave it, and well, we'll give it a little stir actually first and see what that does, if anything at all. There we go, yeah, quite a little bit of gold there now. A lot of the foils are coming off now. You can see the gold in the mixture. So again, like I say, this is more of a kind of a set it there and forget about it type deal. So I'll come back in the morning, and I suspect that in the morning this will all be taken care of and all bubbled off there. But we'll wait and see. All right, guys. So here we are a few hours later, and as you can see, the reaction is all stopped. The bubbling is all done, and so I'm going to take it to mean that the fingers are all cleaned off. We're going to go ahead and strain this off. I'll show you what that looks like when we're done. Give it a little stir here, see if we can't. Oh yeah, there's gold in there. See? All the gold foils moving. So we'll strain this off and I'll show you the end result. All right, so all I've done here is filter off the acid and filtered it down through a coffee filter, and then rinsed it a bunch of times just with some clear water, and that's what you're left with. You're left with the gold flakes, the gold fingers in the bottom of the bucket or in the bottom of the container. Now keep in mind, this is not a lot of gold, right? Like this is a very minimal amount of gold, but it is gold, and depending on the size of the batch of fingers that you want to do or that you decide to do, you can always get more than this, and you can actually take this and melt it down from here, or there's another step in the process that you can do to actually put it into solution and then drop it out, and that way you can guarantee that it's pure gold. But anyway, that's all for now. Just wanted to show you this process of recovering the gold fingers, or the gold from gold fingers. That's all for now.